My name is Simone Kluge and this is the Mother Podcast. So what is grief and how do we deal with grief, especially when we deal with the loss of a mother? This is a question I asked myself when I lost my mother in 2016 and was going through the process of dealing with my own grief. So in early 2019, I decided to start the Mother Podcast to try and find out how other women like myself have dealt with their grief. So every month I will interview a different female and find out what has helped them deal with their loss. I hope that this will be an open space for these women to speak about grief, death, and more importantly, mother loss. So for anyone tuning in, I hope these conversations will give you an insight on how to deal with losing someone you love, especially your mother. This is the Mother Podcast. Welcome to episode 3 of the Mother Podcast. Today I'm joined by the wonderful Rhona Velasquez.
Hi.
I'm super excited to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you
today.
for having me.
Just a little bit about how we know each other. How do we know each other?
We've actually known each other for years.
Yes.
I don't know how many.
It may have been maybe like, do you think it's like 5-6 years?
Probably more, but working together 5-6 years, yes.
So basically, Rhona is friends with my very good friend Jack, my best friend Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a charity called What You Do Matters. It's an East London-based charity that helps to inspire young women. Yeah. And we worked on so many different projects. What were we doing? We did so many different things.
Loads, oh my gosh.
Volunteering.
Loads of fundraisers, volunteering,
10Ks.
events, runnings. Yeah, it was crazy.
But I think, do you know what was great about it? I think it was a real space of like women empowerment. Definitely. And like self-development and working together. I think I really got to know you properly through that. Mm-hmm. I don't know a lot about the whole of your story, but I did say to you because we went for afternoon tea recently.
Yes.
Jack took us there.
That's so good.
And I was saying to you, when I had the idea of setting up the podcast, you were the first person that I thought of, and I felt really inspired by your story and what you have been through. I don't know bits of your story. Yeah. I know the fact that you go on to discuss it further, that you lost someone when you were very young, at 18. Yes. You're the only child.
Yeah.
You've recently got married, and 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I love your husband, J Mike.
Thank you.
I was at your wedding.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're now a mother to a one-year-old son, Caleb.
Yeah.
And so I think that you have been through so much, in your life. You've had to overcome so much, losing your mum so young, getting married, having a son.
Yeah.
And I feel like for people tuning in that may have lost, that have going through those stages and have recently lost their mum, that you are someone that your story is one that will inspire them, and one that has definitely, when I think about the things that I will have to face. Yeah. And I think I've just seeing what you have been through has inspired me that I can get through it.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here, and thank you for being open.
My pleasure, completely.
To share your story.
Yeah.
So just tell us a bit about Rhona before. What do you do?
I am a mother. I'm 30 now.
30. Woo.
I'm getting used to saying that.
Yeah.
Because I'll be 31 this year. My husband and I have been married. We got married in 2015. My son he's 1, but he'll be turning 2 next week. Okay. And I love him to bits. He's a little genius. And I know all mums think that, but I think my kid really is a genius.
No, he is. I've seen you on Instagram and you're teaching him how to speak Tagalog because you're from the Philippines.
Yeah.
And he's like the cutest thing ever. So you're like, Caleb, and he's like, yes.
Yeah, I think he's speaking a lot, way too much now, like every day. My friend was around the other day. She was like, you actually argue with your son like he's a 4-year-old. I was like, well, he argues with me, so we have to.
And what do you love doing?
This wouldn't be considered fun, but I have always been into property, as you know.
Yeah.
So full time, I'm an admin assistant. I work in the city. My husband's a web developer. But growing up, I've always had a dream of being a property investor.
Amazing.
And that's currently what my husband and I are trying to do on the side.
Okay.
So our dream is to just invest in properties and build up a strong portfolio. Okay. So that at some point we won't have to wait till retirement age to stop working. Yeah. Our money will work for us. And we're praying that the money will be big enough for us to do some charitable work.
Amazing.
We don't know exactly what, but we do have a heart for something in the Philippines.
Okay.
So stay tuned for some big projects coming from me in the future. I don't know when, but God willing, they'll happen.
Sounds exciting.
But yeah, it's all about quitting the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Building a legacy and leaving something for my son to carry on doing as well.
Amazing.
And helping others.
Amazing. So tell me a bit about your mother. Tell me about your mom. What was her name?
My mum's name was Norma. Mm-hmm. Norma Cruz, my maiden name. Single mum. Mm-hmm. Born and bred in East London. Well, I was born and bred in East London. She's a Filipino immigrant. Mm-hmm. She came here when, I actually don't know how old she was when she came here.
Yeah.
So she grew up in a farm in the Philippines. So in the province, like nowhere near the city. She's the youngest of 2 girls. And there was a big age gap. So her sister like 10 years older. So growing up, she always told me that she had a dream to travel.
Yeah.
So when she was older, she wanted to travel the world and visit all these places. And you think like a country girl from the Philippines who had no money, how would that even be possible?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
she's crazy. She did it. She was a primary school teacher in the Philippines.
Oh, amazing.
And I think in her 20s, she left and she decided to travel the world. So she'd been to places like Jerusalem.
Oh, wow.
She's been to America, all across Europe, Canada. And then she decided to settle down in London.
Okay.
So when she came to London, as far as I know, she was, domestic worker,
Yeah.
nanny, cleaner, that kind of thing, chambermaid. And then she ended up being a nurse.
There's a lot of Filipino nurses.
Yes,
the most
it's very stereotypical. But yeah, so she had her like nurse crewdom in Royal London Hospital.
Oh, love it.
Actually, one of them was Jack's mum.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, they were friends before me and Jack even met. It was crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was a nurse, and then she was introduced to my dad, and by then she was already late 30s. She never thought she'd settle down because she was so busy working and having a good time with her friends.
Yeah.
But she met my dad, got married. It was a very quick marriage. And then they had me. But that didn't work out for them, their marriage. So I don't actually remember them happy together.
Okay.
Divorce was a big thing growing up, and it was quite messy. So that's why it ended up single parent life for my mom. So it's just me and her. And it was very much my mum versus my dad's side of the family.
Okay.
Because the divorce was messy. But although that's true, I always had love from both sides. My mum was very, very loving, and my family, who I'm still very close to.
Yeah, no.
Huge family on my dad's side, and they've always treated me like their own child. All my aunts and uncles have been like that. My cousins and I are very, very close. So yeah, my mum raised me as a single parent. Her health deteriorated after and during the divorce.
Yeah.
After she had me, she actually had they call it thrombosis in the brain. So she had a blood clot in her brain. So, and I don't know the full story because my mum would tell me how it all worked when I was younger. So I don't really understand. But so as far as I know, after I was born, she said I cried a lot. And as a mum now, I understand what she meant was colic. I don't know if she had that diagnosis years ago, but from the way she described it, I think I was a colic baby.
Okay.
Constantly crying. She got no rest. And because she had me quite old as well. She was 40 when she had me. Oh, wow. Okay. So she had all these, it was quite traumatic for her, I think. So yeah, she I don't know how it happened, but she had a clot in her brain. She was in a coma for 3 days, and they had to do brain surgery.
Oh, wow.
And so my grandmother, who was working like 2 jobs already, and my granddad was working a night job as well. My aunts and uncles who were quite young, they were all in one house. They took me in and they looked after me for a few months while my mum was still recovering.
Okay. So what led to your actual passing of your mother?
Well, so my mum and I lived together alone, like I said, single parent. And I was 18 at the time. I was doing my first job, receptionist in a solicitor's firm. Okay. And I came home one evening and I was pretty tired. It was February, so it's like really cold and it was dark quickly. And so, and if you know me, I love to nap. I love sleeping.
Yeah,
so
that check, always napping.
always napping. So as soon as I got home, all I wanted to do was sleep. And my mum, bless her, I crashed on the sofa and she went to me, do you want me to make banana cake for your bar on tomorrow? Bar on means lunch or, lunchbox, yeah. So I was like, oh, yeah, okay, sure, mum, whatever. Typical teenager, not really caring, but okay. So I fall asleep. And then I don't know how long it had passed, but I woke up, the house was really warm and I could smell banana cake. And I went into the kitchen thinking my mum would be there, but the oven was off, the cake was made, and my mum wasn't in the house.
Okay.
And my mum's she was always at home. Like I said, her health deteriorated, so she never really went out much, and she had diabetes, so she had to eat and sleep at certain times.
Okay.
So I waited a few minutes. I was like, oh, maybe mum's just gone to the shop. She's gone to get ingredients or something. Didn't come back. So I was like, okay, this is really weird. It's snowing. It's dark. Mum never leaves. Like, the shops are literally behind our house. Like, there's no need for her to be out this late. So I went around and I was asking the shopkeepers, have you seen my mum? Like, do you know where she is? No one's seen her. So then I called. I thought, okay, maybe she's at Bible study. That's the only reason she leaves the house. Church, Bible study. So I called some of her friends. I was like, oh, hi, auntie, is my mum at your house? And she was like, no, we haven't seen her. I was like, okay. So now alarm bells are ringing. And I had no idea where she was. And this was not her usual behaviour. So then my grandparents lived across the road, and my dad had come back into my life at this point, and he was across the road with them. So I said to them, I can't find mum. So my dad drove me up and down to try and find her. We were making phone calls. We went to the police station. No answer. And she didn't have a mobile phone or anything. This was like a good 12 years ago. So mobile phones weren't that big back then. And I don't know how I felt. I just felt really lost and I knew something was wrong because my mum would never leave the house, especially without telling me she'd write me or something. Yeah, very odd. And I just didn't know what to do. The police called the hospitals, called the police, nothing. So the police said, leave it with us, because it hasn't been 24 hours yet, but leave it with us. In the morning, get in touch or we'll get in touch with you. Yeah. So I have no idea what time it was by the time we stopped searching. But my dad went back across the road to go to sleep. I went home and I remember our house phone, because those were a thing back then, that was in our hallway. So I unhooked it from the wall, put it down on the floor, and I literally just lay on my dining room floor with my head next to the phone. Can't imagine. Just in case. Yeah. And also because I'm a deep sleeper, I was like, I don't want to miss a phone call. Yeah. Because even though it's a traumatic time, I know I will knock out. Yeah. So then I fell asleep, and then in the morning, I remember, I don't know if the phone was ringing or I just woke up, but I remember my eyes were closed, but I was awake, and I was like, do I want to wake up? Can I open my eyes? I was like, no, let's just go back to sleep. Things will be better if I just sleep some more. Yeah. But I forced myself to wake up. Like, no, we need to find mum. Well, this is me talking to myself. We need to find mum. Get up. And then everything happened so quickly. So I can't remember if we contacted the police or they contacted us, but I remember and I don't even know what time of the day it was at this point, but my pastor was with us, my dad was with us. And I was speaking to the police, and they had, I think they called me perhaps, or maybe I called them, but they said there was a traffic accident last night on Barking Road. Okay. But from the description you've told us, so you've told us your mum's 60, the description of the woman who was involved in the traffic accident, her age doesn't match the description that you've given us. Okay. The hospital have matched her as 40s to 50s. And so the police officer that was telling me, I was already in the police car by then, because they said, we will need you to come to the hospital, to the morgue, and ID this body. God. But they were sure it wasn't her, because they said the description they were given was 40, 50, and my mum was 60. But as soon as they said that, I knew that was her. You knew? Asians just look younger. Yeah, it's just how we are. And I knew my mum didn't look like a 60-year-old. And I just knew that was her. Barking Road, right across, behind my house. Yeah. And even though they were sure, I remember sitting in the back of the police car. My pastor was next to me, and I just knew it was her. And it was you and your pastor? Me and my pastor. My dad was waiting for me to get back. The whole family was waiting. Yeah. So you're 18. I'm 18. In the back of the police car, going to the morgue. Yes. To identify if this person is your mother or not. Yeah. Completely crazy. I was in a very adult situation. Yeah. But I was 18. Yeah, exactly. I think my childhood was very much like that anyway. Because it was a hard childhood. I had to be an adult from a very early age. So we get to the morgue. Everything so long ago now.
Yeah.
I kind of just remember all the main bits.
Because it was 12 years ago.
Yeah. But I remember we go to a room and we're standing on one side of a glass window.
Yeah.
It's very much like from a movie. And then so the coroner or person who works the morgue, I don't know what you call them, but they explained to me, the lady is behind this window and she's covered. So what we'll do is we're going to open the curtain and then we'll pull the sheet back and then give you the chance to see if that's your mother or not.
Wow.
So then I don't know if my pastor said anything, but I just know he was with me, and I remember them pulling back the sheet and instantly I knew it was her. And I was like, that's my mom.
Wow.
So then my pastor was like, no, that's not Atenorma. Atenorma means big sister. So that's not Atenorma. She looks so young and peaceful. That's not Atenorma. I was like, no, that's my mom. I know my mom. Wow. That's her. And so then, because obviously there was confusion there, the coroner's like, okay, is there any identifying marks that you know of that could identify your mom? I was like, I had to think about it. I was like, she's got a mole on the left side of her shoulder on her neck.
Yeah. So
then we had to go into the room where the body was, and they pulled the sheet further down and the mole was there, and that's when my pastor believed me. And I don't think I said anything, and then I just cried in his arms, and I just broke down crying because that was my mum, and it was all confirmed. And then I don't remember what happened then.
Oh, did she?
Thank you. I just remember driving back. I remember driving back. I remember texting my boyfriend at the time saying, my mum's gone, she's gone. And he was like, I don't understand, what do you mean your mum's gone? I was like, she's dead. I think that's the first time I said it, was in a WhatsApp message, she's dead. And I came home, and my dad, who I've never seen be emotional at all, he was bawling his eyes out. I was bawling my eyes out. And I think from then on, the next few days, the next few weeks, it was all just everyone crying and lots of funeral arrangements.
Yeah.
And that's basically how I lost my mum. What had happened was she had gone out to buy more ingredients or something from the shops after she'd made my cake. And because it was snowing and it was dark. So this information I found out later at the inquest at the court. So the driver was driving, it was a green light, but my mum was crossing the road at a diagonal angle.
Okay, so didn't see.
Yeah, so if you're walking straight, it's a shorter journey, but if you're crossing the road diagonally, it's a longer walk. And she had a hood up, so it was like blinkers on a horse, like they can only see
so she
forward.
Couldn't see from either periphery.
Exactly. Yeah. And because she wasn't crossing at a proper crossing, the driver didn't see her. And because it was snowing, I think by the time he pressed on the brakes, it was too late. And I later found out that there was they call it a 3 impact hit. So she was hit the bonnet, the windscreen, and then the pavement. And so I was told that when the paramedics arrived, she was already unconscious.
Wow.
So I don't know if they say they doubt she was in pain. She died later in hospital.
Okay.
And that's what I found out later on when they did the inquest and everything. But yeah, after I came home, after IDing her, it was just everyone rallied together, my whole family, the church, all my friends, lots of funeral arrangements. And it was the first major loss in my family.
Yeah, same with my mum.
Yeah. And it was all just, everyone was just shocked and didn't know what to do.
Yeah, but I think having that sense of community, I guess it sounds similar to my situation, that kind of coming together and of faith really helped.
Oh my gosh, amazingly. Yeah. Especially because it was my dad's side of the family.
Yeah.
But they all shared amazing stories about my mom.
Yeah.
And also because they're all Catholic and my family and I are born again Christians.
Okay, so different completely. Yeah.
And then they got on so well with my church and they were happy to take part in everything. And there was just so much union there. It was amazing to see, but sad that it had to be in that way. Yeah. What do
you think has been the hardest thing about losing your mum at that time, at that moment? What was the hardest thing, do you think, losing her so quickly?
I think just the fact that I was 18 and alone.
Yeah.
Even though my family didn't abandon me and I have a big family.
Yeah.
in my household, it was just me and my mum.
Yeah.
So I remember after the funeral, there were so many people that attended. It was amazing. But what you find is when the funeral's over and you go home, to the people that live in your house, for me, that was just me.
Yeah.
And I think that's when it really, really hit me. Life's just never going to be the same.
Yeah.
Because after IDing her and doing the funeral arrangements, I was able to kind of go on autopilot because there's something to do.
Yeah. You got things to sort out,
there's
things to arrange.
There's people to talk to.
Yeah.
People to contact. My family from Canada flew over to attend. But as soon as she's buried and the reception of the burial is over and you're back home, that's it.
Was there, so did you move, so you moved back into your house?
I carried on living in the house me and my mum had.
By yourself?
By myself. My mum, although we had no money, she was a very practical and very wise lady. She's super good at budgeting.
Yeah, you're so good. Even what you do matters. You're like, when it's like boom, boom, boom.
Super
organized.
That is all her. Even with no money, she manages to budget money.
Yeah.
So she, even though for years we were under threat of losing the house, she always made sure she had life insurance. And what happened was, after she passed away, I inherited her life insurance, which covered the mortgage in the house.
Okay.
So the house was mine, mortgage free. The only thing I had to worry about was just carrying on bills and everyday life. But the amazing thing is, growing up, she never, in terms of being prepared for the future, she's never treated me like a child. Growing up, I knew about mortgages. I knew about how to pay bills and how to go into a bank and how to do transactions and all those kind of financial things that adults do. She taught me from early on.
Yeah.
And I think also that was God's plan as well, because obviously God knows everything.
I was going to say that because sometimes you don't realize the things that your mother is instilling in you.
Yeah,
what they're preparing you for.
Definitely.
And you wouldn't have been able to have survived.
I mean, when you lose someone, your whole world is upside down.
Yeah.
But to have to think about bank accounts and bills and mortgages on top of everything else, that's just way too much.
And you just being like, what do you think gave, because I can't imagine you're 18 and you're having to identify, what gave you that strength? You know, I speak about my podcast, about my episode of being there when my mum died, and you having to find, you don't know how strong you are until you're facing that situation. What do you think it really gave you that strength during like such a difficult period when you're someone so young who could have completely broken down?
I think I did break down. That was my most broken point of my life, I think. And I've been through a lot growing up, but that was my most broken point. But growing up, seeing my mum with practically nothing and her being able to just have faith in Christ. Yeah. I think that's the only thing, even though it didn't make any sense to me, believing in a God when my mum has been taken away from me. Yeah. Believing that Christ is all powerful and brings joy in a moment where my heart is shattered to bits and my life is over. It was just following her example that got me through it. Yeah. Yes, I have amazing family. Yes, all my friends were there for me 110%. Yeah. They would check up on me, call me. They would always give me words of encouragement, tell me how strong I am, that they love me. Those were all such important things that I relied on. But when you're by yourself and you're left with your thoughts and no company, the only thing I could do was follow my mum's example, lean on Christ even though I didn't want to, and just carry on being strong. So it was just having that faith. Because I think I've spoken to you about it briefly before, and I was amazed at the fact that you didn't have any therapy. Because I know that for me, that's something that has helped me later on. Because I know not the same like Filipino tradition or culture that people don't really speak about how they feel. And you know, I don't really know anyone in my circle that's like been to therapy. Not many people, but I was surprised that you'd been through something. You didn't have like any sort of therapy during that time. Yes, so the people who arranged the funeral and the police, obviously they directed me to numbers I could call or people I could see, and meetings that I held within UM for bereavement. So I knew those things were open to me, but it was kind of just information. Yeah, there was no. It would have been different if I had someone who'd been through it, say these are things you can use. This is how they work. I can go with you.
Yeah.
If you need to go speak to someone, this is how it could help you. So for me, although I knew they were there, it was just like information points.
Yeah.
They didn't feel like things I could go to. I can't really explain why. But I mean, if I could go back and speak to 18-year-old Rhona, I would say take advantage.
Yeah.
Go and speak to someone. Because I think if I had, although a million times over God brought me through that, and I know it was him that did that, I would have saved myself from making so many mistakes after my mum passed away. If I had gone to speak to a professional, someone who could have helped me through the bereavement stage instead of me just kind of muddling my way through.
But you made it through.
I did.
Yeah, you did make it through.
Yes.
But I guess it would have given you that a bit more of that extra support and lean on your faith. I mean, faith. I mean, I'm Christian, Catholic, and I think I even seen my mum towards the final stages of her life having that faith and having that strength that I didn't. Because I go to church. I'm not a person who goes to church like regularly every Sunday, but I would say I have a strong faith, but I didn't realize the importance of having your faith and leaning on Christ.
Oh my gosh!
During like the most difficult times, was sometimes you're left with nothing. Yeah. And leading by their example, you know, and your mum instilled that in you, and that is what's pulled you through. And recently you've become a mother. I mean, you have Caleb, he's one. Has that been a difficult process not having your mum there? You know, because I just think for anyone tuning in, and if for myself, I'm not a mother yet, but I just think to myself, God, how am I going to cope? I just think how would I do it? And I see you, and I think, you know, how do you get through that? I know because it's been so long.
Yeah.
You know, it has been 12 years.
Yes. But
still, how are you leading up to motherhood?
So the first few years after my mum passed away, of course, there were thoughts where, how am I going to get married without her? She was always supposed to walk me down the aisle. Yeah. How am I going to be a mum without her? Who's going to look after my kids? How do I go to work? Yeah. Who is going to help me? She's my mum. We always shared, spoke and fought about everything. Yeah. But I think because I lost her at such a young age, I knew that marriage and kids was something I could think about later. Yeah, of course, yeah. So it was I kind of dealt with just kind of learning how to live life first. So now I have gotten married and I have a child. It's not necessarily difficult that she's not here. It's more sad. Yeah. Because I've managed to learn how to live with the pain of losing a mum and for her not to be here. So at this point now, I've come into a new chapter of my life. It's just sad that she's not here. Yeah. Not even to hear her voice, just to have her presence with me. I think that's the toughest thing. But one of the main things that's helped me is she gave me a great blueprint to follow to be a mum. I didn't have a great example how to be a wife because I couldn't watch my parents act or function as a married couple. But she did teach me the way she raised me, the way she loved me so unconditionally, and I think she loved me too much. Yeah. She loved me with such abundance that I don't know how to love my son any other way. And I think that's why it's not difficult, it's just sad. Yeah. That she's not here. I remember messaging you actually. I think on Instagram you may have put up, I think maybe it had been 7 or 8 years. I remember messaging you, being like, you know, when I'm so sorry for your loss, and, you know, obviously being what I'd been through. I remember you messaging me and said, I'm not sad anymore. I'm not, and I thought to myself, what, like, wow, like would I reach a point where I'm like, because you're like, I'm actually like, maybe. And she's like, I remember you said, I don't know whether it's because I've become a mother that it's different, but it's changed, but I'm not sad about it anymore. And I thought, will I ever reach that? Will I ever reach that point? I'm getting upset, but I was like, will I ever reach that point where I'm okay? And I thought to myself, what a strong woman, you know? No, I felt exactly how you are feeling in the first few years. And I remember saying to a friend who had lost her dad a year after me, I said, when is this gonna get normal? Yeah. When is life gonna feel okay again? And she said an utter, or someone had given her the advice that life after losing someone you love doesn't feel normal until about the 7th year.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I remember saying to her, 7 years is so long. I don't know if I can do this for much longer.
Yeah.
But actually, she was right. As the years go on, I don't know, I can't find the right word to describe it, but because the pain is always there, the feeling of missing her is always there. And pain comes in waves. Sometimes it's just lapping at your feet, and other times it completely knocks you off your feet.
Yeah.
And that never goes away. But as the years go on, you're able to manage the pain better. I don't even know if that's the right way to describe it, but after all these years, I can miss my mum without feeling like I can't breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And life being a mum is difficult, I've learned. But also I think when you become a mum, there's so many things you realise about your mum that you never would have. Yeah. And I knew my mum inside out. We had no one but each other. We were as close as any mum and daughter could be. We would fight like crazy. Okay. But there was so much love there. And now, so before being a mum, I always had those thoughts. Did she know how much I love her? Yeah. Did she know I was sorry for all those times I was so horrible to her? Did she know that those lessons she taught me, I still remember? Yeah, that's what I think as well. Does she know that I'm really grateful for all the things she's done? Yeah. Does she know? I'm
sure she does. She obviously she does. But it's exactly how I feel. I think I didn't. Does she realize how much I did appreciate her?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But now I've realized after being a mum, I look at my son and this is so cliche, but it's so true. He, no matter how badly he might, God forbid, turn out in the future, I could not love him any less. Yeah. No matter how many times he makes me angry, tired, frustrated, disappointed, whatever he does to make me feel those things now and in the future, I can't love him any less. And even when he does something wrong and doesn't say sorry to me, or if he hurts me, I will still love him. And I've realised now that is how my mum felt towards me. Yeah. So all my what ifs and does she knows, I'm at peace with now because I know how much she loved me and I know that feeling. I don't know if I'm describing this injustice because words can't do it, but it's just that feeling of when you become a mum, you understand your mum on a whole other level. Yeah. And it has brought me a lot of peace, which is why, like I said, being married and being a mum without my mum isn't hard. It's just really sad.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of the way that you're describing it. Because I think, how would I cope? I think it's that thing of that, just that sadness that she can't experience and be there for it.
Also, it helps that my husband's amazing.
Yeah.
He is a really good husband.
And you have really amazing in-laws as well.
Crazy. Yeah. I've been so lucky. Yeah. I've been so lucky. All my family adore my son. They're always excited to be with him. My mother-in-law just looks after him whenever we need her to. And both his grandparents, so Mike's parents, they absolutely adore him because that's their first grandchild. Yeah. And they're so excited over everything he does. But just generally, the people around me have made life so much easier. My husband, although sometimes I want to kill him, he's an amazing, amazing husband and he's an amazing, amazing dad. And when we're going through times where I'm like, I can't stand you, I have the peace of knowing I've prayed for this man and this is the man that God sent me. And you would think that not having a mum around would be difficult, but he actually helps so much that he takes a lot of the hard work off my shoulders.
And brings you that support.
Definitely.
And how do you think you will remind Caleb about your mother?
My mum.
Yeah, about your mum.
Yeah, so obviously he doesn't understand this, but every year, Christmas, Mother's Day, her anniversary, we always take him to the cemetery with us. And we say, this is Lola Norma. Lola means grandmother in my language. And we'll say, this is Lola Norma. She's mummy's mama. And we plan to do that as a tradition.
That's nice.
And as the years go on, we will instill it in them that it's their duty to go and visit their grandmother at the cemetery. Because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be here. And I want him to know that every occasion you should go there, give your thanks, and just remember that she loved hard so that we would all be here, and that's what they should be doing for their future as well.
I think that's a nice way to instill it from such a young age, because I think for myself, losing my mum at the age of 28, I didn't have the routine of going. My grandmother lives in Ghana, so that idea of going to the cemetery and having that kind of routine. So when I first went, it was scary,
of course,
and overwhelming, and you think, you know, oh my God, where am I? You know, this is all, you know. But I think if you you're saying that in him in a quite young age, that he will then learn that routine. And if anything happens at any stage, that it's things that he's really going to remember and really hold dear. So I think
that's why I hope for, because no one trains you to deal with death, even though it's the most common part of life. No one trains you.
No.
So at whatever age you lose someone, it's always going to be painful. But I feel like, copying my mum's example, just preparing him for those things is my way of helping him when I'm not here anymore. So when the time comes and he has to say goodbye to me and his dad, he will be financially set up to deal with the cost of a funeral, which I learned was super expensive, crazy expensive. And just being able to know that you can go somewhere to go have a chat with your mum and dad when they're not around.
I think it's lovely, because I always think your parents don't teach you how to live without them. No, you know,
no, you kind of have to figure it out.
You have to figure it out, but then your trauma has been your strength. And it's a strength that you will pass down to your children. And I also think about the fact that I was thinking about the other day that, wow, at some point your son may listen to this podcast. You know, this is going to be like audio and archived. And I think to myself, say you had an audio of your mum somewhere, or, you know, I hardly have not much footage of my mum, or, you know, I forgot what she sounds like. And I think, wow, if my children at some point will be able to listen to this and be able to get to know me better, or know what I was like, or, you know, it's something that is kind of, I don't know, I sound so deep.
No,
but it's gonna be imprinted in history. And I don't know whether, you know, it will hopefully help them in a kind of in a special way. So I think, I just thought mention that. So can we just touch a bit more on the fact that you were saying that you didn't have an example of how, because of the loss of your mother, of how to be a wife? You are married now.
Yes. So like, as I mentioned, my parents were divorced from when I was really young. So I never really knew what it was like to have a man in the house. I didn't know how to live with a guy. I don't know how wives are supposed to act with husbands and vice versa. Like it was always just me and my mum. But what I did have was my grandparents who, like I mentioned, they looked after me when my mum was ill, and they were always a big part of how I was raised. They helped raise me. And if I didn't have them and my aunts and uncles, I wouldn't know what a married couple looks like. I wouldn't know what it's like to how men and women can work together and how they can raise children together. They were my first and real example of how it works. And my grandparents showed me how it is to look after 1 million grandchildren and feed your family and be the matriarch and patriarch of a big family. And that was a great example for me to kind of think, oh, okay, so that's how it's meant to be. But also my aunts and uncles, they're relatively quite young, because my dad was the eldest of them all. So for them to be married and watch them be parents to my cousins, and they also treated me as if I was their daughter as well. Like they'd take me out with them, and I was always welcome around their house, and they treated me no different to their own children. But to watch them be happily married, that was a major gift for me, because I never got that experience at home. And I watched how mum and dad are with children. I watched them put down boundaries and discipline their kids, and I watched them provide for their children. I learned how mums and dads can argue, because I mean, for any kid that's normal, but when you've only got your mum to argue with, you don't watch her argue with anyone else. Like, I don't know what it's like when a man raises his voice, but I did because of my aunts and uncles. I know that they would work through tough times and still remain married and in love. And when you come from a single parent family, you're not always able to have that window into what a family looks like. but not only just looking at it, they included me in their family because I am their niece. And I witnessed what it was like for a married couple to be happy together, to go through tough times together, and to be parents as well. So I think that also helps me now as a wife. This is what wives do. Yeah. This is how a husband and wife work together. Yeah. I think my aunts and uncles aren't, they're quite modern in their way of thinking. It's not necessarily my aunt does all the cooking and cleaning and my uncle does nothing. It's never been, none of my aunts and uncles are like that. They're always quite fair, I think. And I mean, every couple is different, but from what I've witnessed growing up, they work very much as a team and they care for each other, look out for each other. And they gave me a great example of how a family and an extended family can all band together and work together. So I've always had commitment issues because my dad left when I was younger, but seeing good examples and healthy examples has helped me realize actually these things I'm scared and unsure of when it comes to relationships are wrong. So I need to work on that. And it's what I did before Mike and I got married. There was a lot of trust issues and doubts and fear that I didn't want to bring into my marriage because I knew that wasn't part of a healthy marriage. Yeah. Because I grew up seeing a healthy marriage. So it gave me the chance to think, okay, I'm going to do something about this. So I worked on it before we got married. And even now during marriage is super, super tough. Yeah. And it's not married happily ever after. It's married constantly working. So even now we're still working together. But my main point is because I had healthy examples, I know that I am able to be part of a functioning, healthy, happy relationship with a man who loves me. And I know what it's like, what it looks like to be loved as well. Because there are men out there that will say, I love you, and they will show forms of love, but actually that's not real love. So I, with God's guidance, has found a man that treats me well, who works with me, and I just feel loved by him. And it was, I have my grandparents and my aunts and uncles to thank for that. And I don't think they even realise that. Yeah. Because
but I think it's amazing that you say that, because the thing is that I guess looking from the outward perspective at your story, it could be like, obviously you lost your mum so young, there was no sense of direction, but maybe having the fact that you had, like there's that saying that it takes a village to raise a child. You had such a strong village, you had strong grandparents that raised you, aunties and uncles that showed you, that led by example. Your mum left you that to be your blueprint of how you move forward. So for anyone listening that maybe doesn't have that, maybe thinking they don't have a strong network or they don't know where to turn to, that you have, you're a testament to that, that you've had a strong village that have been able to lead you on direct path, and you've been able to being in a loving marriage and a loving relationship and know how to raise a family despite your circumstances. Yeah. Because of the village that have raised you. And I love that about Filipino culture. It's similar, I know, because I'm Ghanaian, but it's that whole thing of family and community, and it takes more than one person to raise a child. And I think sometimes people think it's just it's a nuclear thing. It's mum, dad, and it's children. I think even going through my mum's process of her dying, that there was so many people that came together, and you realize that this one person had it's more than just you.
They've impacted so many people in their lifetime. But I think it's important to know that there's so many people out there that love you. Yeah. And you need to go out and find those examples of people who have healthy lifestyles and healthy relationships, and just learn from them, just observe them, learn from them, ask questions if you can. Yeah. Because your mum, Siggz, has left you with so much. And she would never want you to be alone in anything. Yeah. And it's going to take a while for anyone who's lost their mum to kind of overcome it. But if you surround yourself with good, healthy examples, you're actually learning a lot more than you think without even knowing it. So like I said, my aunts and uncles, my grandparents, they don't understand how much I've learned from just watching them. Yeah. But they have been such a huge part of how I am able to be a mum and a wife now. Yeah. So I'm just thankful that God left me with such an amazing family.
Amen to them. Is there anything you've kind of object that you've kind of have of your mother's that has kind of reminds you of your mum, or has kind of
So I was thinking about this. Yeah. I was thinking, okay, I could bring in a Bible. She was always reading the Bible.
Yeah, same as my mum.
All the advice she gave me came from the Bible. It was a verse.
Amen.
It was never just this is what you should do. It was like Jesus said. And then I thought, oh, maybe a pair of glasses, because my mum always had the biggest glasses. That was just her look. Always glasses or permed hair. That was. I think my mum. I think glasses and permed hair.
Yeah.
But I think the best example, the best object would actually just be me.
Yeah, I like that.
Because she was never a materialistic person. So there's nothing that would strike out and be like, oh, that's so mum. The so mum thing would be me, because everything I do is just trying to copy what my mum did.
Yeah.
And actually that was her legacy. She wasn't able to leave me with much, but she left me with the gift of being able to prepare.
Yeah.
She left me with the gift of foresight, and she left me with the gift of faith.
Yeah.
So when I am going through tough times, I immediately call on Jesus, and that gives me strength.
Yeah.
And it's kept me sane all these years.
Yeah.
She prepared me without me even realize. She prepared me for absolutely everything. Even things that she couldn't give me as an example growing up, like how to be a wife.
Yeah.
I never even got on an airplane with her.
Oh wow.
The first plane I went on was with my best friend at the time and her parents.
Yeah.
And I was 17. But she taught me to not be afraid of anything.
Yeah.
And so there is no object that would remind me more of her than everything she's left me that I now use.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that you can leave your kids a fortune, but if you haven't prepared them for the future, they'd still be so lost without you.
Exactly.
So I'm the wonderful object that I'm bringing in today.
That was such a great example. But it's true. Yeah. She's kind of, it's not about the materialistic things. It's about the things that you, the faith, the hope, the strength, the resilience, the determination. Yeah. Like you were saying, your mom came here from Philippines for the age of, in her 20s.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom came from Ghana at the age of 26. And she came here, she didn't know anyone.
And how amazing are they?
Like they come from another country, don't know
Second
anyone,
language.
had no family, but had such resilience. So when I think sometimes, okay, I'm struggling today, or I can't do this, and I think, Simone, you have no excuse. You know, your mom came here with nothing.
Yeah.
You know, I remember saying to her, she's like, my biggest testimony of my life is the fact that I have my husband and my children. Oh. And I think to myself, I have no excuse to fail. You know, I have everything that I need. And I just have to go on and be, and like you were saying, and be their legacy. And I think that's the biggest testament that we can do to them.
Yeah.
And also to ourselves. And I think you're the perfect example to your son of how, you know, pushing forward. And I'm sure he's gonna, when he does, you know, listen back to your story at some point, he's gonna be so proud of the mother that he has. I'm literally in awe of you and of your story.
That's too much.
Be crying, but I am. You've been through so much, and you're so strong.
Thank you.
On to my next question. So, what are the most important lessons you think that you've learned from the passing of your mother?
I think it's what I kind of previously touched on earlier.
Yeah.
I think for me anyway, I had to forget all of the what ifs. What if this and what if that? What if I didn't ask for banana bread? What if I had been nicer to her that time? What if I wasn't so rude? What if I gave her more money with my first paycheck? Maybe if I did this, or maybe if we said that. I learned you can't hold on to those things.
Yeah.
My coping mechanism throughout the years has just been, I can't hold on to the things I can't control. I can only go with what she's left me with.
Yeah.
So I have to go on with what she's taught me. I have to learn from her mistakes as well as my own.
Yeah.
There were things she did as a parent that I wouldn't necessarily do with my son. But again, that's the example she's left for me. Her life has been an example for me. And that's the thing that's been able to keep me going. And I think with anyone, you can't get hung up on the things that you can't control, because you drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
And in a time when you're at your most broken, you can't damage yourself any further. You have to hold on to the things that will strengthen you and renew you, because you have to heal. You have to help yourself heal.
Yeah.
And I hold on to the lessons and the happy memories that my mum left me with. And I use those to sculpt the Rhona who is here now, but also the future Rhona.
Yeah.
The Rhona who I'm not sure how I'm going to turn out, but I have a vague idea of what I want. And that's who I'm aiming for. And I have to use all the tools my mum left me with to get to that Rhona.
Yeah, that's a very good answer.
Oh, thanks.
And what advice would you give to any woman that's recently lost her mother or was dealing with her grief? Like, what advice would you? As you mentioned, I didn't go for therapy during bereavement, which I should have. And I think the two pieces of advice that I wish someone had told me during that time was, one, don't make any major changes in the first 12 months of losing someone you love. And that's just a very practical piece of advice, because during those 12 months, 6 months down the line, you might think, you're stronger, you're coping better, but actually you don't realize how broken you are. Yeah.
And I did make some major changes in my life and major decisions in the first 12 months that actually caused me more heartache and breakage than if I had just let life continue. If I had just let myself be for the first 12 months, I think I would have been in a stronger place to make big life decisions. And I really wish someone had told me back then, just wait. Yeah. And another bit of advice that I mentioned as well earlier is life doesn't feel normal, or normal, I put in quotation marks, again until at least 7 years afterwards. Yeah, that's the first time I've heard that. That's a big lesson for me as well. And it's so draining that when is this pain going to end? Yeah. When is this roller coaster of today I'm happy, today I'm broken? Yeah. It's very, very draining. It's emotionally such hard work. But it does come to an end, and when you are able to smile again and carry on with life, and when you're able to look at your pain and not let it completely take over you and define you, don't feel guilty for it. Yeah. When you get to a point where you can laugh and you can be happy in life, that's good. That's not a bad thing. Yeah. And you just have to remember that. And you need to accept it. That's the most important thing. Yeah. Accept that you will be happy again. Yeah. And that it's okay to be happy again. Yeah. It's a different kind of... Totally. Different stage. Totally. And what you actually touched on it already, but what advice would you give, to your younger 18-year-old self that was standing there and having to take on so much and wasn't aware of what was coming? You've kind of been through all these different stages. What would you have said to that? Don't date that boy. Yeah. Don't date that boy. Don't date that boy. That younger. Your mum was right. That younger age, knowing what you know now and being been through everything that you've been through, what would you say to her? What would I say to her? I would say, God's not your enemy. I was super angry, and I needed to be angry at someone. Yeah. The only person I could be angry at was God, and I fully was. I rejected him for a few years, actually. I think I would say to her, whatever mistakes you make are fine. Find your way of dealing with things, but look after yourself. Don't put yourself in danger. Don't make silly mistakes. Don't try and just be smart about things. Yeah. And just surround yourself with people who are good for you. Yeah. I was always a very rebellious teenager growing up. I can't imagine you was a rebellious teenager. Yeah, Jack will tell you. Yeah. I was very rebellious, very angry, emo, angsty teenager, angry at something and someone. But I don't know. I think if I had to go back to my 18-year-old self, I would just say, trust God. He's there for you. It's okay to be angry and speak to a therapist. There's nothing wrong. I knew there was nothing wrong with it, and I've always been an advocate of counselling and therapy, but I would say just try it out. Just go for one session. Ask someone to go with you, but you need to speak to someone who's trained, because if you speak to family and friends, they give advice from an uneducated background. Yeah. They will come with their cultural influences. They'll come with their own opinions. But if you speak to someone who's professionally trained and unbiased and who is just there to listen to you, it's a safer place for you to pour out what your soul is trying to express.
Yeah.
And I think at that time I didn't know how I was feeling or how to cope with what I was feeling. But I think if I had spoken to someone professionally, I would have made less mistakes and I probably would have healed faster as well.
But your journey has been your journey.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't, if I had not gone through what I did and dealt with it how I did, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Yeah.
My son, my husband, roof over our head, pretty happy life. So although mistakes were made, God's had this plan for me all along and he's just made it all work.
Yeah. On that note, I just want to say thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. I think, as I was saying, like when I had the idea of setting this up, you were like literally number one on my list, and I wasn't sure how you would feel talking about your story. But I think, like, I just want to say you've been through so much, and I am literally in awe of you.
Thank you.
I am completely, and I think that your mum will be so proud
of
the woman that you've been and the mother that you're being. And thank you so much. I know that a lot of people listening and are going to take a lot away from your story, and I just hope that you continue to grow in strength and love and faith. And I've taken a lot from our conversation, so thank you for being here.
Thank you too. I think this podcast will help. I wish I had this during my time of bereavement.
Yeah.
And I think our mums looking down at us would be so proud of everything we're doing and how we're able to use this to help other people who have lost a mum. So thank you too, Siggz. I think it's an amazing thing you're doing.
Yeah.
And all blessings and success to you.
Thank you very much.